famous murders that remain unsolved. Welcome to ITO's 10, and we are back with exciting content that will leave you ruffled. But before we begin, if you are sensitive by nature, this video is not for you. Parental guidance is advised because the gruesome details might prove to be too much for your heart to bear. With that note, let us dive into the world of crime and murders. It is always a terrorizing and terrific moment when the killer goes free or is never identified. So, let us look at those top 10 murders that shook the world with anonymity and secrecy. Number 10. Bella Thorne's skull, London, 1940s. The 1940s was wartime. Chaos everywhere. 3 boys went hunting for birds, unaware of what the future held for them. What? Were they murdered? Nope. However, they found a dead woman inside the hollow of a wych elm tree. The sight must have genuinely been an enormous shock to those jovial boys who found the remnants of that woman, including a wedding ring, parts of the skeleton, and a shoe. She was identified as Bella Thorne. But who was Bella? Was she simply a spy who knew too much information during the war? Or was she an unfortunate woman sacrificed by the witches in the quest for power? To this date, no one knows the wretched fate of Bella. It sure as hell is creepy and a morose death. Number 9. A Killer Calls. Dorothy Jane Scott was a single mother who resided with her 4-year son Sean and her aunt when the threat calls began. All these calls were from an unknown number. During a meeting with her colleagues, Dorothy and her colleague head-rushed an ill-looking conjurer to the hospital, bitten by a black widow spider. And that was the night she disappeared. After kidnapping her, the killer claimed to possess her, and later he had the audacity to call the Santa Ana Register after killing her. The most outlandish part was when he decided to traumatize Dorothy's family with his taunting calls. The police were vilified when they could not trace the calls because those calls never lasted long enough. And after 2 months, her charred bones were uncovered near Santa Ana Canyon Road. Is it even love if you stalk your lover and then kill them in the act of passion? Is this a crime of passion or simply a deranged killer? Number 8. The Villisca Axe Murders. 1 axe and 8 lives. It was no different than any other quiet 1912 summer nights in Iowa, except 8 people were bludgeoned to death in their sleep. Miss Mary Peckham's intuition coerced her to look out for her neighbors with another Moore family's relative, Rose. Little did they know that they were opening the doors to one of the grisliest and spine-chilling murders in history. Random brutality and baffling clues were all it took to shake the community. Slabs of bacon, a bowl of bloody water inside an uneaten plate of food, and finally, the killer draped linen all over the window panes and crushed victims' faces. That night, the Moore couple, their 4 kids, and 2 guests lost their lives. The only thing that remained was the constant theories and speculations. Perhaps it was a game of power play and rivalry, or an act of a mentally deranged person. Well, there is no way to know. Number 7. The Seal Chart Murder. This murder will probably haunt you whenever you're alone. What could go wrong in an isolated summer house in a heavily wooded area of England? Yes, a murder. Major General Charles Luard kissed his wife goodbye on the 24th of August 1908 and left on a hunting expedition. It was the last time he saw Caroline Luard alive. Upon his return, he found his wife's lifeless body. She was shot in her head twice. Despite his tight alibi, the judgmental world drove him crazy with hate mail. Heartbroken and bereaved, he later committed suicide as his hope to find the real killer dwindled and exhausted. Caroline's missing rings and jewelry blurred the murder motive, and to this date, it remains as a cold case in the pages of history. Number 6. The death of Jonbenet Ramsey. It was 26th of December 1996 when this 6-year-old beauty pageant queen was found dead in her basement. Her mother Patsy Ramsey found a ransom note demanding $118,000 for Jonbenet's return on the same day. The blame first fell on her parents, but was dismissed as the exonerated DNA pointed towards a completely different male. In 2006, John Mark Carr confessed to the crime, but the DNA sample ruled him out. To this day, the investigation is active in honor of Lou Smith's dying wish. I hope it gets solved one day. Number 5. Tylenol Murders. Ever wonder the reason why medicines have a tamper-resistant packaging? Well, it is murder. What? That must have appalled you, but go on. Here is why the packing found its usage extensively. In 1982, Tylenol was more pain-inducing than pain-relieving. 7 people in Chicago in 1982 died when someone decided to lace Tylenol with potassium cyanide, and with the cheap packaging, nothing seemed unusual. Many copycats in the country caused more Tylenol poisoning deaths. Waves of terror washed the nation when the first victim, Mary Kellerman, a 12-year-old victim, took her last Tylenol pill to fend off cold and died. All the leads reached dead ends. James W. Lewis, a tax consultant, spent 12 years in federal prison after sending a letter to a drug manufacturer demanding millions of dollars in exchange for the end of these horrifically sneaky murders. Yet, the fact that he was never convicted for murders means that the killer might have been simply sitting and relished the chaos unfolding in front of his eyes. Number 4. Smiley Face Killer. What is more creepy than a murder? Leaving a painted smiley face after ruthlessly drowning a body. Yes, the FBI insists that this is all a hoax and that there is no smiley face killer. Yet, it fails to explain how academically accomplished, athletic, handsome white males were found drowned in water bodies. If there were one body, it would have been ruled out as a suicide. However, 45 bodies across the country of the USA are too big for a coincidence. It seems like a mystical gang of killers stalked college men. The rumor of it being a gang emerged when a group of college men was drowned on the same day in different parts of the country. Patrick McNeil's death in 1997 to Matthew Genovese's death in 2016 shook white college men to their cores. Were these murders connected to jealousy? If it was cynical how jealousy can drive people crazy. No signs of struggling or strangling were present on these 45 bodies, and detectives Gannon and Duarte gave up on this case in 2012, which they privately funded when the FBI dismissed it. To this day, the loved ones of the unfortunate victims hope to find the smiley face killer so that the victims' souls can finally rest in peace. Number 3. The Zodiac Killings. The time between 1968 and 1969 proved deadly to the couples in Northern California. A mysterious and dauntless serial killer started killing couples. It began with a teenage couple being shot to death in the year 1986. During the later assaults, the male victims seemed to survive, and after the 1969 attack, the killer called the authorities and took responsibility for the murders. This mystical killer hit the headlines with his clandestine letters and ciphers that garnered attention. This taunted the police, yet they could never catch the Zodiac Killer. However, many believe that Arthur Lee Allen, a schoolteacher, was responsible for these murders, yet nothing conclusive. Despite leaving clues, the law enforcement authorities could never catch the killer. Number 2. The Black Dahlia murder case. January 15th, 1947 was a regular morning until a woman strolling with her kids stumbled upon an atrocious sight. A young naked woman was sliced in half at the waist. Oh damn, the woman who found her must have been scarred for life. But who would be cruel enough to kill this woman identified as Elizabeth Short, a 22 years Hollywood actress? The LAPD went on a wild chase across the nation, conducting several interviews. Hope came in the form of an anonymous letter. The letter was rumored to have been sent by the killer and contained a set of fingerprints that, wait for it, did not exist in the FBI database. The slicing's precision and dexterity placed a suspicion on a group of students from the University of Southern California Medical School, which proved to be a false lead. Surprisingly, many people came forward and confessed that they had committed this gruesome crime, but they were all dismissed. Shocking that some people would go to the extent of taking the blame to become famous. Well, the case was never cracked and remains a mystery that will never be unveiled. Number 1. Jack the Ripper. It was 1888 when London was terrorized and haunted by the shadows of Jack the Ripper. The mysterious serial killer is believed to be proficient in human anatomy. It is a mystery that has baffled everyone all over the world. 5 women connected in no way other than being killed in the same 1-mile radius. Then, this serial killer sent taunting letters to the police and kept them guessing about his next move. Mary Ann Nichols, Annie Chapman, Elizabeth Stride, Catherine Eddowes, and Mary Jane Kelly were the poor victims. Their throats were slashed and their organs were ripped out and dumped to rot on the streets after their stomachs were slashed. The allusion to this mystery has inspired many books and movies. A true mastermind and definitely a psycho who bewildered all law enforcement. Well, these were one hell of a jaw-dropping and shiver-worthy set of murders. What are your theories about these heinous murders? Comment below and let us know. Worried about these killers being on the loose? Do not worry. These heinous crimes are shadows of the past. If our content enthralled you, do like and subscribe to our channel. We will be back with some exciting content to keep you hooked.